Hi friends, it's time for That's Life with Julie, and today I'd like to kind of wrap up this whole conversation that we've had regarding giants in our life. People perhaps, circumstances, situations, and even fears that loom as this giant, insurmountable, bigger than the ability of God to work in our lives, even in our life, and how that can just render us pretty much helpless in certain circumstances. So today I want to give you some strategies for coming against those giants in your life. I like to call them slingshot strategies, going back to David and how he had that slingshot full of those 5 smooth stones, just what he needed in order to take care of the problem before him. And I want to give you the reasons why I want you to take action in this area, because giants really have an incredible power in our life. They can rob us and steal the peace that we are meant to have. As women, as men, parents, as people at work, in our work in faith, and our work outside in community, and our influence on people. Really, when we face some of these giants and we think, no, we shrink away and think there's nothing that I can do, it steals that peace that we were meant to have. It also keeps us from the purposes and plans that God Himself has for us. Because so many times, a personality can project. Yesterday I spoke about a gentleman who's in the publishing field, and he's huge. People know his name, and he does wonderful things, but I have found in my life that he's kind of become this giant persona that kind of intimidates me at times. And what I have to do is speak truth to that, as I spoke about in part 2. But I also have to recognize that, Julie, you cannot let this conception that you have allowed to just build up in your mind, you can't allow that to take place and to take root, because it hinders the very purposes and plans that God has for my life, as well as those dreams that we have and those things that we want to accomplish in our life. Also, it can freeze our faith, and really what I just spoke about is intertwined with that. We can come to that place where somehow we really just get to a place where we think, this is too big for God. I mean, there's no sense in praying about this. There's no point in trying to move forward, because it's just not going to work. And that's where I don't want us to stay. I want us to grab that slingshot, and I want us to pull up some of these strategies in dealing with these giants. So the first one I'd like for us to accept is that there will always be giants in our life. Always. There's always going to be something that pops up in our life that intimidates us, some person that we come against that in some way just projects this presence that overwhelms us. And the reason we need to accept that is so we won't be so stunned when it happens. Sometimes, you listen to people's stories, and it's like listening to a mother complain about how horrible something was on television, a certain channel. And sometimes I'll be like, really? That surprised you? I mean, you're like really shocked that happened? Why are we surprised about these things? And sometimes we're surprised because we choose to live with a certain ignorance, a certain I'm just gonna pretend that that's not gonna happen. But listen, giants are in the land, and we're going to confront giants. So let's just accept that, and then know what we're going to do when that happens. And one of the things that we can do, first of all, is that we can offer a well-tempered response to these giants. Take school administration or any type of authority, be it that a physical, a doctor, physician type authority, someone at your work. I mean, one of the worst things you can do is just fly off the handle, or in a rage, or in letting all this bitterness and resentment and all this build up until finally you're like, oh, I'm just going to so get them, and to act out in that way. That's never a good idea. That doesn't work well. Just like that young teenager named David, who assessed the situation, remembered what God had said about Israel and who God said He was as the King of Israel, as God. And David said, okay, this just isn't going to stand. I'm going to do something. That's what we need to do. We need to assess the situation that we're in. Now here's like, let me put this in real practical terms. Some of us, maybe the giant is, those holidays, Christmas and Thanksgiving. And if you have children, if you're married and your parents expect you to be at their house for every event, and maybe they let you know they're disappointed, or they give you that nonverbal, we're very disappointed type thing. You know how that feels. Some of you can identify with this. What we need to do is acknowledge that, okay, as long as we're living and breathing, and by the grace of God, Thanksgiving and Christmas will come every year, and I'm going to have my relatives, and every year we're going to have to deal with this. So what we want to do is have a well-tempered, well-thought-out response, and you need a game plan. So I know in my family, we just one year had to just decide when our oldest are 23 and 21 now, and when they were just very early in elementary grade level, my husband and I decided, you know what, we're going to celebrate Christmas morning in our house for multiple reasons. One, it's just a lot less crazy, especially because we had a toddler at the time, and you pack up like 900 pounds of stuff for Christmas in your little minivan. So we decided one reason was that. Another reason was because of the atmosphere that we wanted to have in our home on that day. If the kids wanted to tear through their presents and there's wrapping paper hanging from the chandelier, I could care less. To me it just kind of is like, oh, it's Christmas, the kids are crazy. I liked that. And that wasn't such a positive thing in some other situations. So we decided for the children, we wanted to have that atmosphere. So for the very early morning of Christmas morning, that's been at our house. Didn't go over real well sometimes. It's been difficult. We've had a few not confrontations, but kind of that subliminal thing going. But we really drew a line together and decided that. And that was hard to do, but it was necessary. Another thing that you need to have, especially when you're dealing with authority figures who are giants in your life, are to have facts. And to have that information and be able to present that, to really disengage yourself emotionally, to divorce in a very healthy, psychological, emotional way, to divorce yourself from the moment and be able to present yourself. This happened also to us several years ago. We had a situation in a school system where something had to be addressed. And it really came down to 4 people, another couple, and my husband and I. And it was difficult facing some of the giants in our community. But we said what needed to be said, and things didn't go the way we thought they would. And I was very disappointed in that, to be quite honest. But here's the other part of this about facing our giants, is that when we do this, and one of the strategies for doing this is because they can instill within us this desire to go deeper in our own life. And what we were able to do was to teach our daughter that you stand up for what's right. So those are just some of the strategies that you can have for doing the right thing and facing your giants. And somebody's at my door, so I'm going to have to go. That's Life with Julie.